Located in the middle of the Gobi Desert, Dunhuang was once an important trading city on the Silk Road. Along with goods, ideas were also exchanged in this oasis town, giving rise to a way of life that was a synthesis of cultures. Since the decline of the Silk Road and changes to transportation, Dunhuang is no longer as prosperous as it was during its heyday, but the lessons it teaches continue to be exchanged today. Professor Neil Schmid is deeply involved in that exchange. As an external researcher attached to the Dunhuang Academy, the American academic has lived in this small city in northwest China for the last 3 years. During that time, Professor Schmid has become familiar with life in Dunhuang and has made many local friends as well. In this episode, we leave aside academic research to explore Professor Schmid's daily life and see what impressions he may have to share about living in this remote oasis town. It's an ordinary autumn morning in Dunhuang, but for Professor Schmid, the day is about to have a few interesting twists. Today, he will rescue a puppy, and later he will attend the wedding of a friend. First, he meets up with Wang Lijuan, a volunteer at Dunhuang's Stray Animal Rescue Center. They're old acquaintances and met after rescuing a dog who was called Maya 2 years ago. Today, Professor Schmid has called his friend about another dog, which is being kept by the garbage bins behind the apartment where he lives. It belongs to an elderly caretaker, but Professor Schmid is concerned that the dog is not being properly fed and is being kept in unsanitary conditions. Although he likes puppies, the professor is severely allergic to dog hair, and so he can't take care of the animal himself. After negotiating with the caretaker, he has arranged for Wang to take the dog back to the rescue station. He has paid for the expenses himself.
500啊。好了，嘿嘿，给主人再见，给他再见。快走，来上车，上车。哎呀，好了。
So right now we just saved a dog that was living behind my apartment building in a really disgusting trash heap, which the poor thing lived in its own filth. It was always chained up. It never ever exercised from the time it was a puppy. The chain was maybe this long, and it was a pretty sad state of affairs. So, and this is the third dog I've saved, and now we're going to go to the place where a woman very kindly has about 400 plus dogs. So we're going to go visit now.
流浪狗的造成它是人造成的，不是狗造成的，它都是因为很多人不负责任养狗，不拉牵引绳，有的狗是跑丢了，有的狗是主人就遗弃了，不想要了。是。那么这样就大街上流浪狗会越来越多，它对这个疾病传播、环境卫生，都有很大的影响。所以，那你现在怎么办呢？城市呢，就是，像我们收容
生态嘛。
对呀，但是你流浪狗，你又不能说抓了就捕杀，它也是一条生命嘛，对不对？我们只能就是救助过来以后，在我这个地方暂时做不到做绝育，因为那个每一只狗做绝育可能得费用在700多块钱。那么怎么办呢？现在我们的做法就是公母分开，到我这个地方来，它不会再繁殖。现在就是因为圈舍紧张，你看刚才你们看院子里面很乱，有好多狗，它没有圈舍，所以刚才咱们后面拍的后面就是现在在扩建，再增加120个圈舍，再收容更多的流浪狗。也希望政府能够重视起来，因为他们认为就是说，要么捕杀，要么就是 让自生自灭。但是作为我们来说，专门做流浪狗救助，还是希望都是一条生命嘛，能够让它存活，怎么样能做，就是把它很好的管理起来，而不是捕杀。把它救助到我们这个地方以后，首先是公母分开，不会让它再繁殖。再一个，鼓励大家多宣传，那么领养代替购买。
我想要给你。
不，再不要了，那是我的事情，再不要了，
没有。
这刚才我们没看到你这边有。
因为你不给他给他那个老头不给我给狗，
他不可以。对，
好，
应该说，
可以吗？啊，
是。
我刚才他
这是支持你。
好，感谢，非常感谢。行，那就再见。
OK
有机会我们再见，好吧。
When he returns from the rescue center, Professor Schmid has one more important thing to do. Zhou Teng, a friend who lives in the same apartment building, is getting married today, and he has invited him to attend the wedding.
所以这是我们的祖先的传统的衣服，婚礼穿这样的衣服是奥地利跟瑞士的，是一点正式。
These days, most young Chinese choose a combination of Chinese and Western-style marriage ceremonies. This kind of wedding has gradually evolved over the years. It still contains traditional Chinese elements, but also incorporates modern and Western elements, which are popular with the young. On the wedding day, the groom goes to the bride's house to show his respect, and then takes her to the hotel where the wedding is being held. There, the ceremony is completed, and the couple receive the blessings of relatives and friends. It is traditional in China to set off firecrackers as the couple gets out of the car to drive misfortune away.
You look very handsome. Yeah, and your wife is very beautiful. Okay. Enjoy yourself.
In Western China, many couples choose to hold their weddings at noon. Today's ceremony is simple and is being taken care of by a company that has planned the entire event. Wearing a Western-style wedding dress, the bride enters slowly to processional music and then exchanges rings with the groom. Then, according to traditional Chinese wedding customs, they both thank their parents for taking care of them and make the changes to their names that codify the creation of a new family. Now, the bride and groom address their partner's parents as they would their own. Mama! The wedding is followed by a banquet. Generally, the bride and groom change into their reception clothes for this, and then go from table to table, offering toasts to relatives and friends as they receive their blessings. Although Professor Schmid has fallen in love with Dunhuang, he also wishes to have a home of his own.
所以你知道我想在敦煌一带或者买一个房子， 我找到了一块土地，我们现在去那个地方看一下。
And would like to live in the countryside away from the city. To the south of Dunhuang, at the foot of Mingsha Mountain, is a poplar forest far from the tourist centres. We visit the house that might one day become Professor Schmid's home. This land was bought over 20 years ago by another of his friends, Dai Xuefeng. At the time, it was covered in sand dunes. Since then, Mr. Dai has planted 100,000 trees, making a very important contribution to greening Dunhuang and to environmental protection. This is Professor Schmid's second visit to the house. Mr. Dai hopes to lease it to his foreign friend, and the professor hopes so too, as he really likes this part of Dunhuang. Perhaps that's because this quiet spot is the ideal place to write academic papers. Or perhaps because it is so close to the Mogao caves, the subject of his studies, and so he feels the call of Dunhuang culture here more strongly. But that is something only Professor Schmid can know for sure. Unlike many other foreign residents, who prefer to live in big cities like Beijing and Shanghai, or at least in provincial capitals, Professor Schmid was drawn to this desert oasis in the northwest of China. It could seem that life here would be boring and monotonous for a foreigner, but in fact, it is rich and full of fun.
Welcome to Dunhuang.
Professor Schmid has made many friends here. In them, we see the enthusiasm and vitality of the young people of Dunhuang. The Mogao Caves are Professor Schmid's link to this part of northwestern China. It was his love of them and the culture and history they represent that first brought him to this small oasis. And it was his desire to study their legacy that got him a position at the Dunhuang Academy. Despite being from another country, the professor's studies mean that he may have an even deeper understanding of Dunhuang than many of its residents. On the way back to Dunhuang from the West Thousand Buddha Caves, Professor Schmid suddenly gets out of the car to point out the Dunhuang solar power station in the distance. The modern array is an unexpected sight.
So one of the really great things about Dunhuang are the extremes, which I actually enjoy. Extremes of temperature, weather, extremes of aridness, as you can see, but of also the mix of cultures. But also modern and past, right? And so if we go all the way east, we have something called the Mogao Caves. And that is at one end of the oasis. And here at the other end is the solar array. And this is quite a modern contraption here, which is one of the largest in the world. And here we have a sort of modern version of that, this molten tower of salt that's the latest technology for sustainable energy. It's the range of potential and the range of creativity.
Between the Mogao Caves and the solar power array lies more than 1,000 years of history. If the caves represent Dunhuang's past glory as an important town on the Silk Road, then the solar power station stands for its exploration of the future, at a time when it is no longer a frontier fortress town and point of contact between China and the world. Dunhuang is not satisfied to live off the glories of its past, but instead is determined to open up a new future for itself. And perhaps that is how Professor Schmid, who has one foot in yesterday but one firmly in today, has also come to understand China.
In 1984, I would have never expected for China to develop so quickly. It's really incredible that China has moved so fast and so quickly and in a very, very stable manner. Being here in Dunhuang and having people come and visit and sharing Dunhuang with friends and visitors and family, of course, because it's such a remarkable place that it deserves to be much better known. This is part of my mission, so to help people understand Dunhuang and to help people understand China.